Hi everybody and welcome to the Lot Pod, the Leeds Rhinos Lot 17A podcast, kindly sponsored by ACD&B, who are a branding and creative design agency based in Farsley, Leeds. They create standout brands, so if any companies out there need a new brand, a brand refresh, new logo, an amazing fanzine, anything like that, just get in touch with ACD&B. Thanks to them as always for sponsoring us. This is another you're right, another Lot Pod special. We have just been overwhelmed with special guests recently, especially the past 2 weeks, Reese, 3 weeks.
I don't know how long it feels like, but it feels like forever. I'm getting used to doing 2 to 3 a week now.
This podcast is starting to feel like a full-time job.
I had to bring Nessa on camera earlier, didn't I? Just to prove to you that I did actually have a fiance and that partner that wasn't.
You brought your competition on.
Yeah.
My competition. Sorry. So yeah, another Lot Pod special, unbelievably, just stacked with special guests. And to be honest, quite timely in that we had Sophie Robinson on. She just scored 2 tries and Leeds went through to the grand final. Today's special guest, Reese,
is Simon Brown, fresh from the Leeds PDRL team's grand final Golden Point win. Simon, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you, boys. Cheers for having us on.
No, thanks for coming on.
Pleasure. So we spoke about before we go on, we don't just want to do a bit of a sort of a timeline, really. So we will leave the best till last, which is the Golden Point victory.
Leave it for dessert.
Yeah. But you were telling us before you came on that we asked you, were you a Leeds Rhinos fan? And you did confirm that with us, didn't you?
Yeah, I was definitely a Leeds Rhinos fan.
Yeah. So when did you start?
Good start.
Good start always. When did you start getting involved with the Rhinos in terms of being a fan, and what's your sort of earliest memories?
Well, I was a fan as a loiner. So my earliest memories was when the rugby league came to my junior school back in the late 80s. I did sampler courses and it was like, well, I quite like this. It's a bit more fun than football for me.
Yeah.
And then obviously went to high school and this and the other. And during high school, we used to go to the grand final every year down in Old Wembley.
Wow.
And that was something special. And every 5 years in a row, I went down, saw Wigan win, which could have put me off.
Got a bit boring that say.
Yeah, got a bit, but Leeds were there twice. You know what I mean? So watching Franny Cummins in his first ever final was a bit special as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then when I went and joined the military, obviously, rugby was a big sport in the military as well. So I was able to continue following the sport and and my sort of enjoyment of it while pursuing a different career. Miles away from home.
Did you play rugby in the army then?
Yeah, I mean only at low level, only sort of regiment and that sort of side of it. I never aspired to play for the army or all like that. But yeah, in the army, so you get a Wednesday afternoon sports afternoon. If you don't have a proper sport, you have to do cross country running. And I ain't a runner.
Better choose a sport.
Yeah, I ain't a runner. I tried to set up a dance club, but they weren't having none of it. It's a sport I'm passionate about, so it made sense. Sticking my nose out and doing that. And then
there must be some feisty games in the army because we had obviously the Paras and the Yorkshire play a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, at Headingley? But I can imagine there being some. I've seen some videos online between. It's like I used to go to the Army Navy reunion at Twickenham, but there must have been some spicy games in between each regiment.
There was, yeah. To be honest, during my career, the sports kind of dropped off a bit because there was a lot going on elsewhere in the world.
Bit busy.
But there always was. And I remember in one game I managed to dislocate my shoulder tackling a Fijian. His head was harder than my shoulder. Would you believe it? But again, like any rugby, we went back in the bar afterwards and people were friends and we had a beer and we talked about good stuff. So it was a battlefield over the line. But then we all had not two things in common. We were in the military and we were rugby fans. So for the people on the sideline, there was a lot of going on.
Yeah, I can imagine completely. Did you manage to keep in touch with the Rhinos and Welsh? Obviously, with the army, like you said, it was busy. I've got this image in my head of maybe if you were on tour that someone else was wearing a Leeds Rhino shirt. Did you ever see anyone else in a Leeds Rhino shirt whilst you're on tour anywhere? Or
I've seen some old sort of Leeds. I mean, you couldn't move for Man U shirts, but
oh god,
but everywhere you went, they must have just printed them to send them abroad.
yeah,
yeah, you see. I mean, I think the weirdest one was a British Gas Engineer T-shirt. That was the weirdest thing I saw on tour. But yeah, you did. But my parents would always send me local rags. You know what I mean? So I could always follow what was going on with local sport. So, you always kept up to date, and you always saw what's going on, and that sort of thing. So it was pretty cool that way. But yeah, like I say, it's one of those things. Now we live in a world where information is available, isn't it? So if you want to find out about someone, you can.
You're gonna, yeah.
So you were 18 when you joined the army.
That's right. Yeah, back in 1997.
1997.
Yeah, I was.
Reese is really young. That's why he's.
Yeah. He doesn't remember the 90s, does he?
No.
No, I was.
Not that young.
I wasn't an academic kid at school, so my dad was in the military.
Mm.
We were struggling to find a career and something interesting to do, and yeah, so the army seemed like a decent option at the time, and they did all my assessments and that. They said yes, and in 1997, like I said, I went down to Pirbright, did basic training. I finished basic training, did my trade training as a mechanic as a trade. In 98, I went out to Kosovo. I went out to Germany, and by 1999, I was on my first operational tour in Kosovo. So, in under 2 years from joining the military, I actually found myself on operational tour, which was
wow,
a shock to the system as a young, 20, 21-year-old.
It was, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it was the tour in 2006 in Iraq where you were injured, wasn't it, as well?
That's right, yeah. So that was my second tour of Iraq as a commander of a recovery team. So basically our job all broken down, blown up, driven in a ditch. We were to go get it. My mates always joke I was just an AA, AA bloke with a body armour. But they're not far off, to be fair. But yeah.
It's a slight difference.
But yeah, December 6, 2006, we were out on patrol and a vehicle brought down while we're in a hostile area. The enemy realised it was a sitting duck and decided to have a bit of a turkey shoot. So about 20 minutes trying to sort of work out what was going on, subdue the enemy. During that time, me and my team connected the vehicle to our vehicle. So it was an armoured vehicle, so that was about 15, 20 ton. Our vehicle were about 30 tons. So you can imagine how big the towing equipment was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so under fire, we managed to get that hooked up and sorted out. And then as we went to pull out the area, the driver just couldn't see. 80,000 pounds worth of sighting system, and I couldn't see through sand and dust. So I had to put my head out the turret, use the old Mark 1 eyeball. And I said, you clear, drive straight, go, go, go. And that's when I felt the impact. So the bullet hit me in the left ear, come out here. And as you can imagine, it ruined my Wednesday morning.
I mean, me and Eddie are just sat here in silence and astonishment, and you come out with that. I mean, I can imagine it did somewhat.
Yeah. Well, things went my way, to be fair. The bullet didn't knock me out. It was a clean round, so it was straight through and through. Both cheekbones were destroyed. The jaw was broken in 4 places. The major problem was suffocation. But because I was conscious, somehow I worked it out. And I put my thumb in my mouth to hold my palate up. And that's kind of how I was for 25 minutes till we got to the medical facilities. Unfortunately, because of the layout of the vehicle, nobody else could really get to me. So I had to sort myself out for 25 minutes till we got to medical facilities. But I always tell people, driver owed me a £5. So I'm going to get it back. But that's, little things like that, the humour that brings it around. But, 25 minutes, I sat there thinking, I'm not in a good way, but I'm not dead, so I can't be that bad. And it was just a case of mentally keeping myself strong until the medics got hold of me.
Unbelievable.
25 minutes, I was back in Basra Palace. I had an emergency tracheotomy, a bit of surgery to try and clear up, any debris that was still left inside my face. And bearing in mind, that was 11 o'clock Wednesday morning local time. I was back in the UK Friday midnight. That's how severe the injuries were. I was in a drug-induced coma, and I stayed in that drug-induced coma till about Christmas Eve 2006. And like I say, so it was a bit of a surreal sort of situation. One minute I'm fighting the enemy in Basra. The next minute I'm laying in an hospital bed in Birmingham, trying to figure out what's just happened over the last month.
Yeah.
God. And how long was the sort of recovery in total then? Sorry.
So it was 10 years of surgery, 25 operations, 140 hours approximately to reconstruct my face. My left eye was removed. There's been some bits and pieces around the right eye to try and recover some sight. So when I woke up, I only had light perception because the damage was internal to the eye. But fortunately, as the sort of swelling went down, we worked out where the scar was, how big it was. I've now got what's classed as 20-25% vision. So it's like looking through frosted glass or opening your eyes underwater. So although it's restricted vision, it's usable. You know what I mean? And it's not degenerative, so I kind of know where I am with it all. So I can make the adaptations to what I've got.
Yeah.
So at that point, then, obviously with all that recovery, did you ever think you'd be stepping on a rugby field,
playing for the Rhinos?
Playing for the Rhinos?
No, not at all. The thing is, when you're going through severe in rehabilitation and stuff, there's a lot of people saying no to you a lot, and it's not out of nastiness. It's expectation management. So the first thing they say is, "Oh, you'll probably never live independently." Well, within a year, I bought my own house and I'd moved out living on my own. Yeah. I knew my military career was over, so I started rebuilding for whatever was coming next. And then they go, "Oh, well, you might not travel. You might not be able to work." Well, within 5 years, I was back in work. You might not be able to travel independently. 2007. Well, in 2011, I did a 100-kilometer trek across the Sahara Desert. 2012, I did Costa Rica coast to coast. 2017, I went down to New Zealand to watch the Lions. So I've moved all that, but being told, yeah, you probably won't play rugby again. I kind of believed that. And in 2018, that's when I was approached by Leeds Rhinos Foundation because I had a few mates working there. So look, we're trying to set up this disabled rugby thing. Are you interested? I thought, well, yeah, I'll get involved. I'll do what I can, help out. I never expected to be playing even at that point. And until sort of like say they set up a training session in early January 2018. And they said, "Oh, have you brought your boots?" Well, I've got them, yeah, but you better well put them on them because we're short on numbers. And that's it. That's the first time in over 10 years that I'd touched a rugby ball in anger.
What was that first session like, Si? Especially in terms of, as you can think, that first session to where the PDRL at the Rhinos is now. What was that first session like down there?
It was really basic. I think there was two challenges. One is we didn't know what to expect, and obviously the coaches had no idea what skill levels, what base knowledge about the game. So it was basically it was a bit eggshelly. What can you do, what can't you do, what sort of drill we put on, what skill level are we operating with. I mean, nowadays, as part of the coaching staff as well, we know what drills we're doing, and as disabled coaches, we know what the guys are capable of and what we expect of them. So it's a lot easier setting up now. But back then, it was like you say, it was primary rugby league. It was here's how to catch a ball, here's how to throw a ball, Indiana cones, all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? And yeah. So, but at the same time, we had to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the game, you've obviously seen that progression from that first session to how it is now. Have you seen a lot of progress over the past 4 years?
Yeah, well, obviously numbers has massively increased. With numbers come skill sets and skill levels, and it has. Yeah, the participation level brings more competition, more challenges, and the more good teams that are out there, the better we've got to become.
Yeah.
And that first game, we had to go over to Warrington, and again we were unsure. We didn't know what was going to happen. I remember Adam Mills doing a documentary, and he ran about, we'd see videos of Leeds. I didn't have much. Yeah. He were wrong. After being walloped 3 or 4 times, and one lad whispered in his ear, I enjoyed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. Make him regret his words. Make him eat his words.
He didn't put that in the documentary, did he?
Yeah.
So we, and that was it from that. You know, that very first game. I mean, I still have the privilege of scoring that first PDRL game in the UK. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
that progressed to some curtain raisers of games. And Rhinos allowed us to play at Headingley twice.
Yeah.
I got 2 tries at Headingley, which again, incredible feeling. You know, to be there, involved in that and scoring on that pitch, wearing the number 10 in the blue and amber, was just an incredible feeling. I think one of them I broke. My first try was a proper Mars bar prop try. Got it 5 meters out and the young kid took a defensive sidestep as I went flying over. And then my second try, I brought through the line about 25, 30 meters out. And there was
let's say 50 meters.
No. Trust me, there was nobody more frightened to be that side of the defensive line than me. As a 19-stone prop, and you suddenly think 25 meters is a long way.
Anyway, funny enough, it gets further away the closer you get to it as well.
Yeah,
I look like a
the lungs start burning.
Yeah, I look like a camel running through mud. But yeah, but I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? It was there, and and it was a thing. And that's the thing. It was bringing back that joy that the game gave me. Thinking that something that I thought I'd never have back. I now get to choose when I leave rugby league, as opposed to having it taken from me. And as you say, so it's that development, and the more teams get involved, and the challenge got harder. And then we had a league system, and twice we've gone out in the semi-finals. It's devastating to go out at that stage because you think if we just got to the final, all can happen. But to bow out here, it was tough. And then obviously this finals weekend, this weekend, we went prepared slightly better, I think.
Yeah, didn't do bad.
So for those that haven't watched a game of the PDRL yet, can you explain probably the differences that they would notice from the men's and women's rugby league that we know?
Yeah, so we're only 9 players on the pitch to start with. There are 2 players that are allowed to wear red shorts, and they are non-contact, so they're tag only, tap only. Sorry. And actually, if you use them properly, they're an incredible defensive asset for resting your forwards.
Yeah.
The pitch is brought in 10 meters from either side, or it's about 50 meters wide instead of 60, 70 meters wide. So we do play a narrow pitch to account for the numbers. You're not allowed to kick until the 5th, and if you knock on, it's only classed as a tackle. But when you think about, we've got players with one arm or players with cerebral palsy.
Precisely, yeah.
You just end up turning the ball over every 2 seconds. So obviously we're working to develop those skills so that people don't knock on, because it affects the game. You knock on, you're not getting roll on, you're not getting quick play, and things like that. So, but other than that, the normal players, sort of PD players, physically disabled, it's full contact. Let's have it. Let's get stuck in. You get people who get a little bit upset with each other, and fists can fly and tempers can flare, and they're no less passionate than any other player.
Exactly, competitive sport. It's going to happen.
It is, yeah, and you like you say, you're representing your city or your town, and it means a lot to do that.
Of course, it does. Putting on that shirt, not many people can say they've scored at Headingley, say.
No, and it's something, like you say, it's ironic, isn't it, that you think, getting shot in the head destroyed one pathway in life, but actually it opened up so many other pathways. And I've been lucky enough to have to be in a place where I've been able to take advantage of those opportunities. And that's the other thing as well. It's all right somebody offering you an opportunity. You've got to be brave enough to take it, and you've got to be in a place to take advantage of it.
I think it's what can you talk about? That's quite a good opportunity for me to ask. How do people get involved in it? Where do people do? Where do people contact? How do they get involved if they want to join in?
So it's Ed Bates at the Leeds Rhinos Foundation. But if you just get onto the Leeds Rhinos website and look at the foundation's work, the PDRL will be on there, and just follow the links to get in touch with the lad. We train on Monday nights down at Kirkstall again, thanks to the Leeds Rhinos. They give us training facilities and time in a professional environment, which also helps the young players develop. Know that we're not just practicing in a park, picking up, the dog droppings before we start training. We're given a professional environment to train. So that's basically it. Through the foundation, get in touch. Obviously, we want more and more Leeds Rhinos players, but there are other teams out there if that's your bag. And that you can't play rugby without an opposition. We're more than happy for people to go where they want to go, but obviously we are the champions, so good place to come.
You can drop that in now for another year. It's great, isn't it? You can do that.
It would be a bit weird if you didn't choose Leeds, with it being the best. So
yeah. It's interesting you say about obviously the club that you use, Kirk, which is because we've spoken to Rob, and Rob Oates, and he was saying, part of their promotion when they're talking to sponsors is that they have the one club mentality, i.e. they've got a member of the men's, women's, wheelchair and the PDRL team. I think, are you in that promo actually? So is it you in that one for the PDRL? I can't remember.
I can't recall on that one.
I can't remember.
I have done some presentations for them.
Yeah.
And like I said, Rob's been really good to the team as well. He's helped out and he's made sure that things have been available to us. So he's the whole club. Like I said, talk about the one club. They're not lying. It's not fake.
Yeah, because that was going to be my question actually. Because I think me and Eddie are always really. We want to hear that one club. It feels like one club for those teams, especially for the women in the wheelchair and for yourselves in the PDRL. Does it feel like it's a one club, and that you're part of a Leeds Rhinos team?
Yeah, although we come under the foundation as opposed to the elite setup. We do. Like you say, that they always ask for representation when they're doing stuff. And they will always mention us when they're talking about the family of the club and what it does, what it means. I know we did some. They thanks a lot of the season ticket holders, didn't they, for helping them out during lockdown. And one of the things that they showcased was PDRL. Asked us, will you come and talk to the supporters and the fans about what their money does, what their money's kept going, and who represents their badge there, and that's who we became. And so we are sort of definitely part of it. And the foundation have done a big push this year about advertising what we're doing, where we're doing it, how we're doing it.
Yes.
We have felt included. Really have.
Brilliant.
So before we like to do a bit of a section on teammates here as well. So I'll give Eddie a bit of time to prep that in terms of what questions we want to ask about your teammates in the PDRL side. But I think now's a good opportunity to talk about Sunday. So finals day, did you play 2 games on that day, or did you? Yeah,
so it was a similar, the similar format to the Super League playoffs, where third played 6, 4th played 5, and then the highest qualifier played first, who was Wakefield, and the lowest qualifier played second, who was us. So we ended up playing Warrington in the semi-final. Warrington have won it the last 2 years, so that was obviously going to be a tough game. And we actually started really well, which is weird for us because we're really slow off the mark. We scored off a fantastic kick. They came back into it 6-6. Then we went down the other end eventually and scored again, put them under a bit of pressure. Then we decided to defend, about 30 tackles in a row for some reason. Practice of defence or something. I don't know.
Why not?
We've seen the men's side do that quite a bit as well, actually.
Yeah. So
they love it, especially on the air guy. They love that.
We thought we'd do a bit of defending, and then literally the last 30 seconds, we put a couple of, we got a bit of a roll on, put some stuff together, and one of the lads went down and dropped in. I think it was Scott Gobin dropped in with a try. Scott Gobin, he's a one-armed lad, but he's also the England captain. So the Leeds Rhinos play the England captain too. So he made a break. He's a fantastic player. Went down and obviously dotted down to put the game to bed, really. And at that point, obviously, we knew we were in our first final, but it was our first final. We were second place, so we thought we got 25 minutes to go out and enjoy ourselves. We knew who we were playing. Wakefield had already won their semi against Wigan, so we thought there's 25 minutes to just go out and have fun, enjoy yourself, and enjoy being in a final. We've got young kids in the team. I mean, looking at like young Harvey, James, and Isaac, who, due to their illnesses, have never played team sport. And all of a sudden, they find themselves in a Leeds Rhinos kit in a final. you know, people bouncing about excited, and then obviously the sort of the anxiety rises because it's not just a game of rugby now, it's a final. It means something so important.
Yeah, representing the city, representing the Rhinos.
Yeah, and it was
a big deal.
Interesting that in Manchester it was 2 Yorkshire teams in final as well. But yeah, so you know, then it was up to the senior lads to kind of rally round and, you know, get the younger lads sort of calm and make sure that the Reds were in the right place, and also just to remind them that this is about, you know, this is fun. You know, it's the same as what you teach under 8s to what you teach, you know, open age. If it's not fun, why are you doing it? So go out there, have fun, and if you have fun, you'll play well. So we went out there, like you say, and we had our usual start and give Wakefield a 6-0 start on us.
It's just to add drama, Si. You know, we knew it was going to be a last minute, you know, try to win, you know.
Yeah, and then like you say, and then we kind of screwed his heads back on and we got back into it. I mean, you can watch the game on our league.
Our league, yes.
Yeah, but there's a little quirk in our game, whereas you can't advance to the kicker until they cross the gain line. And Scott Gobin again, he kind of took advantage of that a bit. So what he did was he shaped a kick, and so they set to return a kick, and he just went for it. He went for the line, darted through and managed to score, pulled us level. And then it was just a massive arm wrestle, you know, and I've got to give credit to Wakefield. You know, they made it a really good game. They made it an entertaining match. Anybody watched it, you'll see that there were no messing about. You know, there were no love lost at all. It was hard hitting, big action. And then obviously, like you said, the whistle goes and you suddenly realise you're in. Because, you know, while they're in our half, we're counting down the clock, going, how long, sir, how long, sir? And obviously, but we've got ball in there half, we're saying, come on, sir, give us a bit.
Come on, wait, come on. It's getting dark.
Are you joking? Bloke whistle. And then, it goes to Golden Point, and again, more entertainment, more drama. And it was the first set after kick-off. You know, we took it down to halfway through the grit and determination of the big lads in the middle. And then we put a little play on, got the ball out wide, and young Ryan, who started with us this year, he got round the centre, and then there's a brilliant bit of commentary, and it's almost as good as wide to west, right? He goes,
it's better than wide to west.
He goes, can he step inside? Yes, he can, and just like that, the Rhinos celebrate. And at that point, obviously, we all go piling on top of him. But he was getting screamed at by his teammates. This is what you don't know, because you can't hear this. He's put his hand up to celebrate, you know, that he crossed the line, and everybody's shouting. He's trying to get onto the posts, and everybody's shouting at him, it's Golden Point, get on the floor.
Just go. Just go.
Oh, yeah. Don't drop the ball. You know what I mean? So, so, and then obviously, and then the celebrations began, and we were so ecstatic. There's 5 of us who we call the Rhinos originals that were there for that first ever.
For the first, in 2018, I saw that tweet, that picture. And
we were obviously, you know, 4 years of keeping the team together and working hard with the foundation to create a squad that we have. That was our reward. It just felt incredible, absolutely incredible.
Trailblazers, pioneers, that's what you are, Si. And then you kind of touched on it, that the celebrations afterwards, you had to just have a few, but the others, did they have a good party? Did they have a good do to celebrate this one?
Yeah, I think everybody kind of did their own thing. Obviously, you know, people got families and children and that. So
absolutely,
I think a couple of lads went to Headingley, and we all went to Headingley for a couple of beers, but some had to make his own way. Way back, but then I think there's a few stayed out and one on, and a couple of sore heads on Sunday morning.
Good on them.
I had a good drink with my mates on Sunday as well, and sort of that's when all the sort of pictures and you know the statements and the messages were coming in, because I think some guys are still struggling to process it. You know, realizing they've gone from, you know, never being able to play team sport to be, effectively national champions. And
it's a big deal. Yeah,
yeah,
it's quite an astonishing statement, that really, isn't it? And it shows. Yeah. I think it just shows. I think something that rugby league is so good at is that family community spirit, and that statement for someone that potentially has never been given the opportunity or hasn't been able to play team sport, to then go play, to go play rugby anyway, but then to go win a grand final, it's just, it shows what that PDRL is all about, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it shows, what it does for people, and both mentally, physically, but also, it's now a pathway because we're hoping that this success encourages more young people, boys and girls, men and women, to come down to training, get involved. If we can set up a development team as well as a first team, I mean, all the better. The more young people experience this, and the more young people are allowed to become part of our family, as Leeds Rhinos, as far as I'm concerned, the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, massively. Right, let's find out about your teammates then.
Let's find out about your teammates, Si. Just be as open.
I put phone on silent just in case one of them don't like what I say.
Yeah. The only caveat we say with this, the only caveat we have with this is you just don't hold back.
Don't hold back. We had Jared O'Connor on, and he was a bit. What's the word?
But he was scared that Mick was going to beat him up the next day, I think.
Yeah, that was it. He was a bit, bit political. But sat on the fence a lot, did Jared.
Danica didn't, so.
Oh, Danica Prim, just threw everybody under the bus. So the first one,
unresolved stuff there, probably.
The first one, who's the toughest opponent you've come against? Si? Any tough players out there?
Yeah, there's a lot of tough players out there, to be honest. And we've got some. I mean, to be honest, I think the nastiest player in the league is probably Aidan Miller, who plays for us. And one of the Wakefield players decided to have a little bit of a fallout with him in the grand final. And even the Wakefield coach went, "There's only one winner there, Ben, and it's not you."
Just stop.
But yeah, Aidan's ex-security guard in a prison, so he's
got the pedigree.
Big kid, played for Milford, but I've seen him put some of the biggest challenges on people, and he's a big tough kid. But off the pitch, nicest man you ever meet.
Tends to be the case, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Massive hit, but then apologises.
Oh no, he won't apologise.
I won't.
Oh no, on pitch you're having it. He might say sorry at bar afterwards.
Yeah, great. I'll buy your pint. The funniest teammate you've got currently you've ever had?
Well, I think the funniest one was a guy I had in the army, but I can't talk about what his jokes were. But it's strange, because it's a different sense of humour. You got to remember for us because disabilities. A lot of people will be. We wouldn't win any awards for PC if anybody looked at the way we speak to each other in training. But yeah, I mean, they all have their moments. I'll just chat. I think who's probably the wittiest.
You can say yourself.
I probably am because I'm the driest. But one of the coaches actually is incredibly funny. A kid called Kieran Hickman. Yeah. He played a bit himself, but he's probably the sharpest when it comes to sense of humour.
Who's the biggest moaner?
Oh, we got that easy, Tommy Pouncer.
That question, honestly, that question gets answered quite quickly, doesn't it, Reese? And another one that's coming your way next. Who's the tightest? That tends to get answered rather quickly as well. Who's a bit tight when it's there around at bar?
The tightest is without question James King.
See, those two always get answered really quickly.
I mean, I feel I need to justify. Tommy point, he does moan, but that's because he's a big voice in team. And if he's got no positive to say, he'll just moan about something. But if you get through the moaning, there's normally some good content there. But you just got to tolerate the first 20, 30 seconds of moaning. With James King, I tell you how tight he was, right? Just after lockdown, we were starting to get going again. We started doing some training sessions on a local field. And then we go for a beer afterwards because pubs had just started opening up. This kid paid on his phone and then disappeared before payment cleared. And I ended up getting collared for his bleeding bill. Yeah. Honestly,
That sounds like me when I used to go to it was a pub in Ilkley. It was the only pub in Ilkley that didn't have a card machine. So I'd always get in the pub and go, "Oh, Daddy, I ain't got any cash. Sorry." That's what I used to do.
I swear you could put coal in James's wallet and come out a diamond.
I don't know if it's just being tight or if it's a bit of a genius move.
He does manipulate himself in the round, so he's the cheapest. For a blind kid, he can see what's going on quite well.
The most skillful player?
See, now that's it's probably it's probably if you take everything into consideration, Nick Lee, who's just joined us. Or I'd say there's other players with good hands, but combined with feet and speed.
Well, yeah,
I would say Nick Lee's probably our more skillful player.
The best ground you've played at, or a ground you'd like to play at?
So the most iconic. I mean, we can't use Headingley because obviously we'd obviously.
That's obviously the best. Yeah, second best.
All right, we got to play at Anfield.
Yeah.
So we did a curtain raiser, not a curtain raiser, an exhibition game at Anfield during Magic Weekend just before 2019. Again, we played Warrington. We beat them 2-0. But yeah, I think for a lot of the guys, there's 20,000 people watching us there. Most of them were having a pint or checking stuff on the phone, but and then there was 20,000 people watching. So yeah, I think that was probably the most impressive sort of field that we've been out on.
Yeah, it's an impressive ground. Is there a ground that you'd love to play at?
Well, I think for the lads, it's Wembley, isn't it? You always want everyone to
absolutely, yeah.
Point of life. But I think it's more for the lads. It's the occasion and the people there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what would matter more than the actual pitch itself. So, like I say, an opportunity maybe at the grand final at Old Trafford or something like that. But yeah, I mean, if you just said what pitch do you want to play on? Well, Wembley. You would
Wembley. Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah, precisely. Just on to some of your hobbies and interests. We always kind of when we get players on, want to know more about themselves. We kind of know the stuff they do on the field.
Yeah.
Favorite films. Sorry,
well, it used to be Black Hawk Down, and then I lived it, and it wasn't so much fun anymore. So now it's Waterboy.
Waterboy, yeah.
So many great quotes in that film, isn't there? You know what I mean?
Do you use some of them quotes at training and when playing and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Very similar, aren't they? Yeah. Favourite other sports? Do you like any other sports other than rugby league? Any that you follow that you're interested in?
I'm a massive sports fan in general.
Yeah.
Like I say, I enjoy rugby union as well because I play both when I was in the military. So I'm a fan of both rugbies. But I identify them as different sports, so I don't make them compete with. You know, I mean, they are totally different sports. I like football.
I think it's the thing of being from. Sorry to jump in there, side, but I do think from being with Leeds, I grew up playing union, but I don't. I love the fact that I can watch both rugby games. So, like, you know, on a weekend now, I can go on any channel and there's a chance I'll be able to watch rugby union and rugby league on a weekend. Yeah. You know, whether there's some games in New Zealand or South Africa and then the rugby league and NRL. So I know what you mean by considering different games, and they are quite different. But I also noticed that they keep bringing rules in either games that are from each other. Like Union brought in 50-22s this year, and goal line dropouts, and they're going, are they trying to merge the games?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you're another dual coder, because you're the first other proper dual coder I think I've probably spoken to on this podcast.
Yeah, like I said, I enjoy watching international football, and I follow Leeds United because obviously it's a local team. But I do get a little upset with Premiership when you watch it because there's too much falling around for me, and you know the manipulation of the referee is. There's a little bit coming into rugby league, and I'm sure many of us don't like.
I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah, but no one's a fan of completely milking it. You know, if someone's giving you an easy opportunity, you know, it's a bit different. But when it's a blatant attempt, falling over when you're not being touched and things like that. And
like Sam Tompkins.
Tompkins.
Yeah, like Sam Tompkins on Friday, yes.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I reckon Myler milked that penalty against Hill, but Hill.
But he plays for Leeds, so that's okay.
Yeah, well, but my thing is that Hill left himself open for that. Yeah. If nothing happened to Sam Tompkins, he just fell over. But what Richie did was going, well, I've counted to 3 or 4 in my head. He's not let go. I'm going to see what happens here. And you know what I mean? So that's part of the game. But when it's a blatant, nothing's happened, you're trying to milk something that's not there. Yeah, that's too much football for me. But I do like the cricket, especially the short format stuff.
Oh, me too. I love it.
Yeah,
that 100, whack it and hack it, brilliant.
Oh, I loved it. I watched loads of that, absolute loads, and it was like back to back coverage, wasn't it? So when it started, I was watching it. My wife's like, "Is this just on all the time?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's great. It's great."
Yeah, but no, like I say, I'm a sports fan. I love any sport. I just think, I just think sport as especially junior community sport, it's got all the best values that kids need to grow up. Working as a team, individual pride, commitment, resilience, all those things that we hope our young people grow up with. That you can get team sport.
Plays a massive part in the community, doesn't it? Favorite music, Si? Any bands or artists that you love?
Yeah, when you mentioned that, I was thinking, but I'm an 80s kid, so mid 80s to mid 90s. So your Bryan Adams all the way through to Guns N' Roses. Was the music I grew up listening to, and then obviously as I went to high school, you're listening to like Oasis and Blur.
Yeah. Britpop, yeah.
I think I preferred music with lyrics. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my genre. I mean, like I say, as I'm getting older, I'll even drop into a bit of country and western now and again. A bit of Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and all them. So, Highwayman, can't beat a bit of Highwayman.
Yeah.
I like country music. I haven't admitted that yet on this podcast and everything, but I really like country music. I haven't gone as far as country western, but I do like country music.
Probably not. Yeah, well, a coward of the county, and all that.
It might be a question on this week's mailbag from Tyler.
Might be.
He loves sending us music question. It might be the next one. Favorite food, Si? Got any?
Well, this is a really tough one to answer because part of my injury, I lost my sense of smell, which has really affected my sense of taste. So actually, food is just nutrition. So if anything, I like stuff with strong flavors.
Yeah.
So going out for a curry or something like something that's got nice strong flavors. But I must admit, one of my favourite meals a week is a fish butty with my mum on a Friday afternoon.
Lovely. Yeah. Have you got a good chippy near your mum, near yourself?
There's a few good chippies around here.
A few? Wow, you are lucky.
Well, it depends what time they're opening and whether you miss them or. But yeah, well, I used to work in one when I was a kid, so. But I've had different careers. Fish and chip shop, army. But yeah,
Leeds player.
Yeah. But
Speaking of Leeds players, who's your favourite ever, or a few of your favourite ever Rhinos players, Leeds players?
Well, I mentioned one earlier, Francis Cummins. He was the first sort of real sort of superstar that he came in that era when Rugby League was getting professional. That one
picking up, Came in as a young kid as well, didn't he?
And that was it. The 17-year-old playing at Wembley and all that. It was
really
massive.
unique. Yeah.
So Franny Cummins, I got a lot of time for him, and obviously Rob Burrow. And that that whole golden generation team you could talk about, and then you got John Holmes. Never got to saw him play, but I've got a lot of people who did. But when I break it down, I'm a prop, so it's got to be a big man on it. And I think Barry McDermott for me, especially with the fact that he played with a visual injury.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of inspired me. And he was one of the first people to get in touch with me after my injury. I mean, it was through. I'd done some work with the academy team when they'd come up.
Right.
They'd come up to our camp and I beasted them around a bit. But Barry got in touch and he sorted out a signed shirt for me that year. And
brilliant.
He's a decent guy. And like you say, we've struggled to find a player like him. Kylie was a bit like that. That big that big
Yeah.
number 10 who's just
Yeah.
who does the hard work when it's getting tough, and just goes out and upsets folk.
I think Barry's quite lucky in that the era that he played in, if that makes sense. That era for Barry was perfect. Like if you put Barry, if you kind of put, sorry, and even when he kind of retired, it felt like it was time simply because the way the game was evolving. Like it was like he had the perfect window of time to play. I mean, imagine him playing the current game side. Well, he wouldn't, would he? It'd just be
I'm not being funny, but if you think about the fines and time off he had,
yeah,
you know what I mean, you could double that at least, couldn't you?
Easily.
Could you imagine if Joe Judson had headbutted him on Friday and he were playing?
Yeah, he got it back, wouldn't he?
It does seem. I mean, we've talked with Barry on here, but you're now the second person to talk about him in that light. He does sound like such a great person off the field. I mean, Danica spoke about him very highly and the support she's had from him. So it's great to hear he's been like that with you as well. Like, because he just sounds like a really top bloke, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he is, like you say, and he's a massive family man. If anybody gets to know him, you know that his family is so important to him. But he cares so much about the game and how the game grows. You know what I mean, and how important that game is to young people, especially young people who might be struggling or not in the greatest of places. And that's why he's so passionate about sport, I think. But yeah, he is a good bloke. He really is a good bloke.
Something else as well is that he is Leeds. He is massive Leeds. You know, when we had him on here speaking to us, he wasn't saying, I think Leeds need. He was saying, I think we need. I noticed that so much. He still thinks, well, he is part of Leeds and probably one of the most popular players probably Leeds have ever had. I just think we'll love him forever. Talking of loving things forever, grand final wins, we love those. Which one was your favourite or couple of favourites?
Other than Sunday, of course.
Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't sure whether this was just any game or grand final games, but
both. Why not?
Well, one of my favourite games was that Catalan decided a few years back. Leeds finished 5th, and they had only 5 went through.
2012.
2012. History repeating itself a little here.
Well, it was we played Catalan, and we were on ropes, and then of all people, Ryan Bailey. Driving. Nearly 2/3 of the way down pitch, didn't he? Remember?
Yeah.
And from that moment, Leeds never looked back. They never looked like losing.
No.
That not being grand final champions. From that moment that Ryan Bailey took that driving, Leeds never looked like they were going to lose that at any point. You know what I mean? And I'm talking any game.
Any game.
Yeah. As for grand finals, I think it's got a bit, the final of destiny. The triple when the three retired, just because of how emotive it was. You know what I mean? Obviously, when Robbie and Danny finished as well, a couple of years later. But I think that was the start of the end of the era. When Jamie and Guy left, I think that was the start of the real changing of the guard, wasn't it? And I think being part of that was historic.
Well, on to the current Rhinos side. What have you made of Leeds since Rowan Smith came in? It's been a outstanding transformation since the short time he's been here.
It has. I think they've become a bit more accurate, haven't they? They were almost trying too hard at the end of the season, I think. New team, big signings, everyone had to look good and everyone had to gel. And I think they put themselves under more pressure than they needed to. But they look like they're enjoying playing again, don't they?
Yeah.
I think Myler makes a big difference when he's on. Just he must be doing something on the pitch, directing or something. The big lads in the middle are all fit, so that helps, forward. And I think that's made a big difference. Having a full team available. No, we still haven't, but yeah, he does make a difference, doesn't it? And I think there seems to be happiness around the team. You know, that they seem to be smiling more.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and that and I met Richard Agar a couple of times, and you know, he's a good kid, a good, nice bloke. But like he says, you know, at the team, was his voice not right voice for him, or you know, what was that? Was that losing streak and that pressure just getting to him too much? And a new voice can make a big difference, can't it?
Absolutely.
You know, having been in the military and, you know, being on ops and stuff, I've been there with my back to the wall, and you're wondering how you're going to get out of this and what you're going to do next. And it's, you know, it's like quicksand, because the harder you try, the worse things get. And sometimes, like you say, it takes a fresh perspective to point out, you know, a new footing.
That's you make a good point there, because that's obviously what's happened. Because we say on this podcast all the time, or I certainly do, that it's the same squad, barring Zach Hardaker, and yet Rowan seems to be working wonders with them. So clearly, it's just that fresh perspective and being like, right, you've been trying this all year, so why don't we try this? And it's just worked.
And winning can become addictive, can't it?
Yeah.
You know, as losing can. You know, it's and I think that makes a difference. You know, you get a couple of wins under your belt, and all of a sudden, you start to believe a bit more in yourself, don't you?
That's been prevalent. On to Friday. Do you think we've got a good chance of winning over in Wigan?
Oh, we were chatting about this with my mates this weekend, and I do. I think they'll miss Kay Cuss.
You can come back on side.
Well, no, I think they'll miss Kay Cuss' organisation, and Liam Farrell's one of the most underestimated players in the league.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about him being the equivalent of Carl Ablett.
Just not as good as Carl Ablett.
No, not as good as Carl Ablett, but you know, a player that
I see what you mean. Yeah.
You can put anyone on the pitch, they wouldn't complain. They do the job really, really well, but they're quietly a threat. You feel like people don't plan for them. But Ablett's impact to the Leeds side was massive, especially in that grand final against Warrington. But I think Wigan will be a massive loss to not have Liam Farrell.
Yeah. So I think, like you say, Rowan obviously worked out a way to keep Bevan French and Field quiet the other week when we played them. So he's obviously got a plan, hasn't he? And again, it's just, if we execute right, there's absolutely no reason. I mean, for me, the interesting one, I think Salford might turn over Saints.
They will.
I've said that.
Yeah, we've kind of said that for the past couple of weeks. Well, I said about 2 or 3 weeks ago that I don't see Saints making the grand final. And even without Brodie Croft now side, do you still think that Salford will turn him over?
He's a big loss.
But sorry, just to nip in, Saints lost Alex Walmsley today, injured.
I've not seen that. That's huge.
He's out for the World Cup as well.
Out for the World Cup, it's gone.
Oh, that's bad for us and all.
Yeah,
but yeah, because I mean, they don't really have another fullback, do they? They put, you know, he was the big next. He's a great player. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. How that plans out. But like you say, Saints are winners at the end of the day, unfortunately. And, you know, winners sometimes just find a way, don't they? But yeah, I think that's it. But, you know, I'm not saying it can't be a Leeds-Salford final. But like I said, Leeds have to be on form. They have to be good. I don't think Wigan will throw it away. I think Leeds will have to earn it.
I think, as always, that Leeds will win on Friday. But I think, like you kind of said there about that Ryan Bailey run in 2012 against Catalan, where he burst through, and from that moment you felt Leeds were going to win it. I think on Friday when we do win, I think Leeds fans then will feel similar, to be like, nothing's stopping us now. You know, we're in the grand final, and we've got that pedigree of always winning in grand finals. You know, we don't expect it, but we've been there and done it. And I feel like every time when you win a grand final, when a team wins a grand final, they never just win one. You know, Bradford, Saints, Leeds, Wigan, they always, once you've, you know, it's that old cliche of you need to beat the man to be the man. So I think once you get one, you get into that routine, and, you know, to play, if it's Leeds-Salford again, if it's Leeds-Salford, Leeds are going to beat them. And if it's Leeds in a beaten up Saints side of half their squad missing. So to me, Friday is the grand final, if that makes sense.
I
Win that.
Well, a friend of mine was saying he thinks winner will come from that semi.
Mm.
So it's just like I say. I mean, but isn't this what you want? I mean, and obviously as a fan of a team, you want them to win, but you want a competitive sort of situation, don't you? At the end of a season, the last thing we want in our game is a walkover situation.
Yeah,
we want to be having a discussion, and we want to have that little bit of hope that we can do it, but knowing full well that it's got to be good rugby to win it.
To do it. Yeah.
Last thing we want is another repeat of that Leeds Castleford game where it is 70 minutes of just wondering what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Without doubt, the worst game of rugby league I've attended.
But the best 8 minutes, but also the best 8 minutes of rugby league ever.
Yeah, just building drama. That's all Rome were doing. Just build it up, and the last 8 minutes, we'll couple of tries to kill it and finish it off. Simon, it's been fantastic to have you on. You are welcome back anytime you like. You've been a brilliant guest. Thanks for coming on to speak to us, and congratulations on the amazing grand final win.
Well, thank you for having us, and it's great. And like you say, we've if we live in dreamland, there's a chance that we could have five. We could have five championship teams this year.
Well, you've set us off.
And the academy team final, the women are in the final, and the men in wheelchair are both in semi-finals. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Let's
Team Rhinos. We're putting a lot of pressure on the netball side, aren't we? I don't know when they start, but
let's all start to dream.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Simon.
It's been a pleasure, boys. Thank you.
Cheers, Simon.
Take care.